Welcome to Best in Class. My name is AJ Madden. I have the honor and privilege of helping individuals and organizations become best in class at what they do. Today's guest is Dillon Freed. He is an expert in mental performance and high level success. Over 500,000 people have used his programs to help them reach their potential. He is a successful entrepreneur, college professor, and author with a bachelor's degree in psychology and master's in cognitive neuroscience. Dillon has worked with entrepreneurs, athletes, and people from every walk of life. He is not a life coach, but a philosopher of success. He is also the creator of Basketball Brain, one of the best YouTube channels on success and winning at the highest levels. Dillon, welcome to Best in Class. It is an honor to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Oh, excellent. Well, I've been following Dillon's work for years and years, and his work is easily some of the best in the world. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here talking to me right now. I have applied so much of what he teaches, and he has such an incredibly unique background. Very successful entrepreneur. He's a cognitive neuroscience. He's a coach. He's a basketball expert. And really, what he's going to do today is help us all not only be more successful, but also happier and live the best life we can possibly live. You can go to his website, dillonfreed.com, for more information. And the Basketball Brain channel is on YouTube. And I've collected some of my favorite things I've learned from Dillon over the years. And Dillon's going to help us understand them and apply them to our life today. So the first quote, concept, we'll call it, principle I've learned from Dillon that he'll talk about is say the opposite of a negative thought and expand it.
Mm. So the brain, like we know from neuroscience, there's something called the default mode network. Sounds like a fancy term, but it's really quite simple. Your brain, when it's left alone, tends to focus on itself. It turns inward. It starts to think about its worries, starts to think about its problems. If you put somebody on a couch and just leave them there, more than likely they're going to start thinking about themselves. And neuroscientists, again, have come to term this the default mode network. I remember talking to a psychoanalyst once, and he said the guy who had taught him, one of the things they would do was when the client came in, this was old school psychoanalysis, Freudian psychoanalysis, where a therapist is behind you and you're laying on a couch. And his teacher, anytime a new patient would come in, they'd lay down and the therapist wouldn't say anything. And then you're laying on the couch and you can start to see what comes up from the unconscious. Am I supposed to say something? What's going on? Did he leave the room? What the hell? What am I paying for? Right. So you just start, your mind just starts creating, like worrying about itself. Am I doing something wrong? Is this a scam? Right. So you go on the couch and your unconscious starts to bubble forward. What you notice in the default mode network is it tends to lead to excessive rumination. It leads to mostly negative thinking. So the default of the brain, the default of the mind is to be negative. There was a book written a long time ago called The Inner Idiot. I didn't read the whole thing, but it's a good term, right? The inner idiot. We have an inner idiot, and it's typically negative. Now, this negativity of the inner idiot, we should have some appreciation for these negative emotions and thoughts that come up, because it was a way to keep us alive as our species evolved through the jungles and the deserts of the world, and being negative, being anxious, being angry to fight back, being scared to run away, even being sad and depressed, right? We get sad and depressed, so we curl up in a ball. Why would that have any evolutionary benefit? Well, curling up in a ball might summon help to us. It might summon assistance from people around us, or in a more abstract way, we curl up in a ball and we're hoping God will help us. So all of these negative feelings are kind of where the mind typically goes. That's the groove for everybody, because we all had to survive as a species. So this is kind of built in us. Part of becoming great in anything, and as you know, I think we have very similar terms. You call it best in class. I call them rare species. Rare species are these humans that exist on the highest levels in every facet of life, in every area of life. It's not that they've necessarily achieved the highest in every area, but they're trying to. And I think it's that effort that makes you a rare species. So one thing you notice about rare species when you're ever around them, and anytime you talk to somebody, when you meet somebody and you go, there's something different about that guy or girl, and then you tell your friends about it, and you'll realize very quickly that they tend to think almost diametrically opposite to the way most people think. When they feel a negative emotion, it's not that they don't feel it. It's like they shift very often, not always, but they shift to the opposite of that thought or feeling. And then beyond that, they expand it, right? So when I work with athletes, I tell them, before a game, they feel nervous, right? Or before somebody's giving a public speech, they feel nervous. What's the opposite of nervous? Probably excitement, right? So you start to shift to excitement. And when you shift to excitement, you can then expand that and start to get excited and expect that you're going to perform well. So you go from nervousness and scared to excitement, the opposite. And when you start to feel that excitement, you start to say, I expect to perform well. You keep adding to it, right? And then you can add the opposite. When I say pick the opposite, you pick opposite thoughts, but you're really looking for the opposite feeling. That's what you're really looking for. My primary work now, if you go to my website, the program's free for anybody who wants to do it. It's how to let go of negative emotion. So I've shifted from shifting thoughts to focusing on shifting emotions primarily. We still work with thoughts, but I work on emotions. So when we look for the opposite thought or opposite feeling and expand it, we can really start to become best in class in anything we do. We can become these rare species, you know. So that's the idea behind that quote.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, thank you for expanding on that one. Now, you gave a great example, I believe, in one of the Basketball Brain episodes, in terms of if someone's feeling tired, they wake up kind of tired, low energy that day, you tell them to say the opposite and expand on it. Can you give that specific example or talk about that?
Yeah. So if you wake up feeling tired, right? You wake up and you don't want to do anything. One thing you can say to yourself is, I feel energized, right? I feel thrilled about my day. And then you can go from, you can do it this way too. Like, you wake up and you say, I don't want to go work out, right? I want to stay in bed. You can shift that to, I want to go work out. Okay, that's great. Shift from the opposite, I don't want to I want to. You start to mentally do this. But then you can go even deeper and say, you know what? I just don't want to work out. I'm excited to work out. So you go from want to excitement. You're kind of growing you're using your language. This is something Albert Ellis talked about in rational motive behavior therapy. Like, our words, when you say a certain word, it's going to create all these connections in the brain to different emotions. So you say, I want, that's kind of like a weak form of energy. It's positive, but it's weak, wanting something. Like, yeah, I want, or I'd like a cup of coffee. Or you go from like, I want a cup of coffee that's slightly stronger. I'm really excited about a cup of coffee. And you can go even higher and say, I'm exhilarated about this cup of coffee. So you go from, I'd like to work out, I want to work out, I'd be excited to work out, I'm exhilarated to work out. When you say exhilarated compared to you just said, I don't want to work out, you start to activate all of those emotional connections. So we watch our language, and in particular, we're looking for more powerful emotions. So that's when somebody says, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I find these feelings actually that are in the way, that I don't want to, like the things I don't want to do but are vitally important for my future. When I feel that, that's like a cue for me to pick the opposite and go to exhilaration. So like I wake up, I don't want to work out, and I go, nope, I'm exhilarated to work out. So it's like you immediately shift to that opposite and keep telling yourself that until you start to feel it. And sometimes you just got to, it's true though, sometimes you got to drag yourself
Mhm.
to the gym or whatever. And you might not feel it. You drag yourself to the gym until you feel that exhilaration.
Okay, thanks for that nuance there. Occasionally, if
Mhm.
it's, honestly, this is one of my all-time favorite tools that I've learned in 20 years of studying performance psychology and success. This one right here, when I share that tool that Dylan just described, say the opposite and expand on it. It's when I share it with others that everyone gets really excited by
Yeah,
that
yeah.
concept. We've never considered it, until the way Dylan explains it. I think that's the feeling we all get when we learn this extremely powerful tool. All fear is in the beginning of anything you do.
Yeah. So whenever I go somewhere new, to a new city, or I start a new school, or when you go from high school to college, right? Everybody kind of says, "Oh, college, it's going to be a scary place." They don't follow. You're on your own. And whenever you enter a new environment, or you're starting to learn boxing or jujitsu or golf or something, there's a ton of fear there right at the beginning of whatever you do, because you don't know if you're going to be able to do it. You don't know if the people in this area you're going into are nice. You don't know if your mentors are going to be a-holes or not, so there's a ton of fear at the beginning of anything you do, because there's so much doubt and uncertainty. And what if you're the one person? I was talking to a kid who wanted to start golfing, and he's very athletic and hyper coordinated, and he wanted to start golfing, and he was scared to death to start, because he's like, everybody knows me as like this really good athlete, and what if I try to golf and I suck? What if I just shank everything and I'm no good and I'll never be good, right? So he feels the fear at the beginning, and I told him, like, just start, because that fear is the fear everyone feels when they start something. When I go to a new campus, when I started grad school, for instance, I've never been to grad school, but the first thing I do when I get anywhere new is I explore everywhere. I talk to everybody. Like, I just go in and immediately start exposing myself to all the fears, right? You go into all of your fears. It sounds so kind of cliche, but immediately when you feel fear, the instinct of toward what you fear is actually a good indicator of which direction to go. Rare species, these best in class people, they've trained themselves that when they feel fear, instead of turning away, they go right towards it, because they know that's where greatness is. That's where evolution is. So fear is actually a honing device for greatness. You feel the fear. You see a beautiful woman or a beautiful man you want to go talk to. That fear you feel is actually an indicator of where you need to go. Now, of course, there's limits on this. I wouldn't, you feel the fear of heights, and don't jump off the building. But, within reason, when you feel fear, maybe don't pick up the poisonous snake, but, within fear, within reason, you go towards your fear. It's like a beacon.
Okay. One of the most powerful things anyone's ever said on this podcast: fear is a honing device for greatness.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, how true is that? And thank you for really giving us a mindset shift and also an action step. I feel like fear is a honing device for greatness. That gives us the action step to run towards the fear. I always felt like making those heroic choices were a magic compass for me that
Mm.
always pointed me in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard it put the way you put it, because it really does lead to greatness. It's a honing device that's,
Mm-hmm.
we should follow that. And also, and just realizing, and here's the mindset shift that, I take away, realizing that all fear is in the beginning. And when you know that, as the late great Greg Harden says, he was Tom Brady and Michael Phelps, uh, performance coach. He says that fear is predictable. It's
Mm.
predictable. We know that it's coming. And in boxing, I boxed for a long time. And there's a saying, it's the punch that you don't see coming is the one that hurts you.
That's right.
And that's what fear is. And what Dillon's telling us is that we know it's coming. It's in the beginning. So
Mm-hmm.
when we see that punch coming, it's not going to hurt us as
Yeah.
much or at all. Or at all. Very practical. Honestly, those two right there, just saying the opposite of negative thought, expanding on it, and all fear is in the beginning of anything you do. If you just take away those two things, you're going to live a much better life, a happier life, a more successful life. And we've got about almost a dozen more of these to go. So buckle up, stay tuned. They're not that good.
Mm.
They are not as good as you think they are. You are just as good.
Mm. Yeah. So I think one of the things I learned, if you're putting in a ton of work on your skill or your craft, you can't just show up and not be prepared. But if you're preparing, when you get around highly successful people, you'll find out very quickly that you are just as good. You can compete with them. I've been lucky to play against like great athletes when I was younger, and I'd never been around really Division I basketball players. My uncles and grandparents, they played Division I football and stuff, but we weren't a basketball family, and I played basketball in high school.
Mm.
And when I started to play against like McDonald's All American and guys on the varsity team that were going D1, I was working. I don't want to say you can just show up and yours you they will feel much better than you if you're not working. They will feel like they're out of your league. But if you're working hard in any field and you get around the greats, you'll realize you can compete with them. And I think a lot of people grew up like me. You weren't around highly successful people. You weren't around highly intelligent people. Maybe you weren't around highly educated people. So you have this sort of internal fear that like there's such a tremendous gap between me and them, and I'll never be in that league. But I can tell you in athletics and also in academics, right? I came from a family. It's like a college degree is a college degree. You go to Harvard or community college, who cares, right? I didn't know what the GRE was until I was like a junior in college. Okay, like my family's just they were entrepreneurs, construction workers. They weren't. I mean, they did a semester or two of college, played sports, but that was it. So I went to college and then I went to grad school. You know, I'm around these people from Harvard and MIT, and at first it's intimidating, but I remember they're not that good. That's not to say they're not brilliant. It's not to say they're not highly skilled. When I say they're not that good, what I'm saying is if you're working hard, you're probably going to be at their level. There are certain like there are Michael Jordans and Kyrie Irvings and Kobe Bryant. Okay, they are that good, but they're so rare, right? They're so rare. And if you work incredibly hard, you might find that you reach their level as well. You know, so it's part of that. All fear is an illusion. All fear is at the beginning, and all fear is an illusion. A thing I wanted to add about fear is an acronym I use. It's about that honing device. It's feel exhilarated about risk. FEAR, feel exhilarated about risk. Um, I think that's another acronym that's not mine is fear is false evidence appearing real. So fear is an illusion, right? And you go towards it. And part of knowing fear is an illusion is that one of the illusions is that people are just so much better than you. And it's just not true. Only if, only it's not especially if, only if you're really working on your craft.
Okay, such an important caveat as well. I mean, this philosophy that Dylan's sharing with us really removes any limiting beliefs that we might have about what's possible in terms of our potential if we put the work in, as Dylan says. And I think it really removes us from driving around with our emergency brakes on,
Hmm.
in life, and that again limiting our potential that we can't be as good as them.
Mhm.
We can if we put the work in. Yeah, so important to think about. Uh, Now, I'm going to lead us into a next, another one of my favorite philosophies by Dillon. And these are about action, these two. So if we pair, they're not that good, you're just as good with the right actions. And here's two frameworks. Here's the first framework that Dillon gives us in terms of action. Have a machine robot mindset. Sometimes doubt the what if that comes up. Block all that out. You are like the Terminator going after your goal. Keep on coming after your goal. Can you talk about that Terminator robot machine focus towards our goals?
Yeah. So in rare species, these best in class people, when they have a mission, when they have an objective, they will achieve it. That's it. It's like it's programmed into you. You're like a machine in the sense of the old school. You have a program and you will execute the program. One of my very good friends, who I should put you in touch with, David Park, he'd be someone really fun to talk to. He was a military guy, a war hero, one of my best friends. I asked, we were talking one time, and I said, so when you get a mission as an Army Ranger, what happens if you don't achieve your mission? And he looked at me dead in the eye and he goes, "What? What do you mean?" It's like, "I don't understand what you're saying." I said, "What? You got the mission. You can't achieve the mission." He's like, "I don't understand what you mean by not achieve your mission." So it's that sort of mindset. It's going to happen no matter what. You can pivot, you can change your tactics, your strategies, but the objective must be achieved. And in Terminator, one of the Terminator movies, the Terminator's the bad guy or whatever the one of the robots is, but it's getting like smashed to pieces and its body gets chopped in half, but it still has to kill Sarah Connor or whatever her name is, right? And it's
Yeah.
just crawling and crawling, and then it gets caught. It's still going after the goal. So if you're not going to achieve the goal, you're going to go out, you're going to die trying, right? Like it's that sort of mindset. I'm going to achieve this goal no matter what, and everything else is noise. A good visual of this, and Kobe Bryant actually talked about this. He said, I think he was mentoring a younger player who was having to deal with like media naysayers and self doubt and all of that. And Kobe said something to the effect of, "Have you ever seen a lion uh, in the jungle? And all over its face are all these little bugs. right? Little flies, but it's focused on the prey and it doesn't pay attention to those little flies that are all over its face. It's going to get the gazelle. It doesn't care about all the little shit, right? It's 100% focused on its mission, and it will achieve that mission. It needs to eat. So everything else has to be blocked out. If you doubt yourself, it doesn't matter. It's a distraction. It's just a distraction. What you feel today, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, distraction. You have a mission. It doesn't matter how you feel, right? So you work no matter what. You work towards your goal, and you get this machine mindset. One of the best compliments I ever got when I was in high school was from actually one of my friends, because every single day I did my shooting workout, right? Every single day I worked on my game, and everybody else was tired, and I was tired too, because your legs feel heavy all the time. And one of my best friends said, Dillon is like a machine. It doesn't matter. He comes in and he works out. And I took that as a compliment. A machine. A machine goes to work, right? And that's what you have to do if you want to be great. You have your routine, you follow your routine, you put your routine almost on, like, if you worship anything as a successful person, it's your routine, right? Because your routine is the step-by-step process you're going to take to get to where you need to go. So when I put something on a to-do list, this is like a sacred act for me. My to-do list is, I really work on it hard, and I'm always adjusting it, changing it, but I have what I put on there. And very often I use digital now. I type it in a spreadsheet, but before I used to handwrite all of my to-do list. And at the bottom of each of my to-do lists before the day started, I would sign it with my signature. I took it very seriously. It's like my signature means something. If we have a contract and I put my signature on it, I'm going to abide by that contract. So my to-do list was a contract with myself every day, right? Like, okay, it's on there. This is what the machine has to do. And I will check off everything on that list. So I'm very particular about what I put on that list. And I think everybody should be. And this is where you start to get into the 80-20 principle. It's like, cut the fluff. What advances me the most every day? So like this morning, I woke up, I do my mental routine, and then I start looking at my sacred to-do list and I hone it. It's prepared yesterday, but then I hone it today, and everything on that list will be done. That's part of that 80-20 area.
Okay. I love that you brought up 80-20 and focusing on what's most important. And I love that you use the word sacred here. Your to do list is a sacred act. Such powerful language there in terms of how important it is, again, to these rare species. It is sacred. Kobe used to talk about that as well. Certain things were sacred. So powerful. And that's really how they think about things. That's how Dillon thinks about things. That's how he's become so prolific in his creation of great materials for us. And also, entrepreneurship and cognitive neuroscience. His to-do list is just sacred, and he is a machine. And yes, that is one of the greatest compliments anyone could ever receive. Being called a machine.
Robotic.
And robotic. And just keep in mind the visuals that Dillon gives us. They're so important to visualize and really lock these into our brains as he gives us these examples of uh, the machine mindset. And also the next one, it is very useful sometimes to pretend that you are someone else if you're going through a tough time or lack confidence. And Dillon refers to this as Halloweening. Can you describe that for us, this act as if mentality?
Yeah. I want to add one more thing. I think anybody who's watching this, if you want to change your life, I think making your to-do list sacred, everybody who keeps their to-do list sacred, you increase the probability of success. I mean, that is your success right there. Your to-do list is your success in kind of egg form before it hatches. So I really stress, put a lot into your to-do list. Maybe you don't want to call it a to-do list. You can give it a more energizing name, but really pay attention to your to-do list. And when it's on your to-do list, it gets done. That's the machine mindset. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. The list gets done. So be very particular what you put on this list. As far as pretending you're somebody else, that everybody, it was the video I made for that was everybody saying, just be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. And I thought, okay, yeah, to a certain extent, I know what they're saying, but actually right now, especially if you're a beginner, you probably suck, right? Like you're not very good. It's very useful to pretend that you're somebody else. It can also help with motivation. Like if you wake up in the morning and you say, I am Kobe Bryant, what would Kobe do? Kobe's going to get up and work out, right? He's going to go to the gym. So when you start to pretend you're someone else, you almost put on this, I call it Halloweening, because it's like you put on their mask and then you want to start to feel like that person. When I was growing up in the 90s, I don't know if you everybody remembers this, I'm sure you do. We had the bracelets, what would Jesus do? Right?
Mm.
Everybody wore these what would Jesus do bracelets. That's part of pretending. Like, okay, if I'm Jesus, how do I respond to this? What would a billionaire do today? I saw what's that guy, Alex Hermosi. I saw one of his videos a few years ago, and he had a question like, what would a billionaire do today? What would a genius do today? What would a great entrepreneur do today? Right. So you start to feel that way. So the Halloweening's like this external thing that you feel like you're putting on. Sometimes I tell people to swap heads, like pretend you're on Kobe's body or you're on Elon Musk's body and your head's on their body or their head's on your body, and act that way. It'll change how you feel. That's external. The other thing, one of the drills I developed for athletes and CEOs is I call it possession or channeling. And what you do is you essentially imagine, let's say you want to be a great CEO. You imagine Richard Branson in like a ghost form. Right? You close your eyes, imagine Richard Branson in a ghost form, and his ghost form kind of comes into your body and takes you over, right? And when that happens, you start to feel like Richard Branson. It shifts your belief system. It shifts the way you think. You kind of let yourself, quote unquote, be possessed by the spirit of these people, these great souls, these rare species, these best in class folks. And the reason this works is because the brain loves imagery. Before we had language, we had visuals, right? We had the imagery in our mind. Language came later. Language is powerful. But when you work with visualization, right, the mind, the subconscious mind, instinctively understands that if the spirit of Richard Branson merges with me, if I let the spirit in, the mind instantly understands what you're trying to do. You want to embody the archetype of a great CEO with all the emotions, the beliefs, the thought patterns, and the work ethic. So an athlete's scared to go perform. They have a big game, right? Or something. It's a championship game. And I'll just say, imagine the spirit of Michael Jordan just takes over your body. How do you feel now? And you can watch visually when I do this with athletes. They'll be sitting there and they're kind of like jittery, a little nervous. I say, what if Jordan took over your body? And they literally go like this. They sit up. They know instantly. The brain knows instantly how to behave in that scenario. So it's almost a form of picking the opposite. If you're scared and right and you're not sure, pick somebody who would be the opposite in this situation. Last point, I was working with and I used it myself. And I used to be like scared to go up and talk to girls, and I'm like, okay. When I was trying to find somebody, and I was like, okay, who's the coolest person like on the scene, right? Like who's just suave and at the time I was young. It was like Jay-Z, right? Like Jay-Z's just like this cool cat. I was working with this kid who also was scared to go. I said, just imagine Jay-Z's spirit takes over your body. Pretend you're Jay-Z. And he came back a few weeks later. He's like, every girl I talk to, I'm so smooth. I'm quick on my feet. I'm flirting well. And so it's a very powerful tool to use. I use it before. When I started grad school, I had to meet with some relatively well-known neuroscientists. Really, one of them really well known. And you kind of have that imposter syndrome. I said, no, I'm gonna feel like the guy I'm meeting with, his spirit's also in my body, right? So I kind of used the guy I was meeting with. His neuroscience spirit kind of took me over, so I felt as an equal to him in the meeting. So that's the
Interesting.
point of that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I've never heard you describe the ghost. Uh, yeah,
Mm.
that one in particular. And as you were explaining it to me, I felt a shot of adrenaline. I think, in my stomach, I felt something there as I was visualizing what it's like to, as you were naming the people, instant physiology change.
Yeah.
I felt it right there. Wow. Okay. Well, and I love also that you paired it with doing the opposite. Think the opposite and expand on it. I love that
Yeah.
you paired it with that as well, because that helped me in the moment to visualize this. And you mentioned imposter syndrome. What a nuclear weapon to overcome the imposter syndrome,
It
which
really
they
does.
say 80% of high performers have it, according to one
Hmm.
study.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and these are high performers that have the imposter syndrome, that they're not good enough. And then you pair that with I'm just as good. They're not that good. I'm just as good. really, really important, for all those high performers out there or anyone trying to change a behavior or habit or change their life. Very important. Also, you brought up, you know, this is a great segue into another one of my favorite philosophies that I've learned from you. Imagine Kobe's head on your body. If his brain was my brain, how confident would I be? And
Mm.
also the opposite, body and
Right.
head.
Yeah, so Kobe might be the opposite of you, or what it can also do is like maybe you're a nascent Kobe. You're a lot like Kobe. It'll expand on it, right? Maybe you've already made the shift that in a lot of ways you have that killer mentality, that killer instinct. It might exemplify or highlight what you already are. Like a lot of us, I think high achievers, we all have this killer instinct in us, and we feel it, but sometimes we can amp it up a little bit with visualizations, right? We imagine Kobe's head on our body, or we can kind of like get a visual. You ever seen those computer generated where like somebody's face morphs into another face? You can almost see your own face, like a mix of you and Kobe, right? This is not new. Native American tribes, right? They have spirit animals. It seems, when we talk about spirit animals, we joke like, oh, Kobe's my spirit animal. Like, okay, take that literally. What's that mean? It means Kobe's spirit takes you over. We're not talking about like some, mystical way. It's like a visualization to feel that energy, right? And you can use animals. You can use it. Like maybe you want to play like a lion. So when you get a shy player, Stan Keller, who wrote this book, Beyond the Absolute Limit, which was he was a mental training coach for basketball. He did it in the 70s, and he would take players who were like shy, and what he would do, he'd put them in front of a mirror and he'd have them roar like a lion, like to start to act like a lion, to take on of an aggressive lion, right? And these kids would go out who are typically timid and diffident and go out and they just play like absolute animals, right? Okay, now they're an animal because they embody the archetype of an animal. What we're doing here is we're actually using Jungian theory. We're activating the archetypes in the collective unconscious. One thing you can do, like if you're scared, you ask, what would the lion do in this situation, right? What would the warrior do in this situation? What would Achilles do? You know, what would Einstein do here? You're actually we have this inner knowledge within us, right? We have this collective history. We understand what a warrior is, even if in our personal lives we're cowards. If we say, okay, I'm a coward, what would the warrior actually do here? The warrior would stand up and speak up. What would the wise old man do in this situation? The wise old man would be calm and see all sides. So you can start to activate these archetypes. And then you can add the visualization to it with the swapping heads and the ghost and the spirit coming in you. And essentially, what you're doing is you're building kind of an arsenal of tools to fight that inner idiot, to fight that part of you that feels the imposter, that feels like they can't achieve anything. And no matter what great person I talk to, they almost go through these, it's like these waves of hyper confidence, bordering on hubris and arrogance, but it's right at the edge. They go right to the edge of this extreme irrational confidence. And they stay there for a while. And then the imposter, am I really that good, comes back, but they use different tools. They keep working, and then they get this upswing of I'm unstoppable, right? And the greats, the greatest, the Jordans, the Tigers, right? They start to live more often than not at that very fine line between arrogance, hubris, which are unhealthy, and then this irrational, extreme confidence. And when you're around somebody who's in that extreme confident state, they will lead teams to victory. They will get more out of other people. Their focus is incredible. Their composure is incredible. And when you're around them, you feel like anything at all is absolutely possible. You walk into their office, it's a different energy. When we talk about aura, we talk about charisma. It's people who have this extreme confidence. We will figure it out, or we know exactly what to do. And if it doesn't work, we will adjust very quickly. Everything feels possible around those people.
I love that you describe this as tools to fight that inner idiot, and and to become that or get to that level of confidence
Mhm.
as well. Really hitting it from a few different sides to fight the inner idiot, and then take ourselves to that level of confidence that we need. And Dylan's given us at least probably a dozen tools already in this episode. And my challenge to everyone listening is to pick a handful that really resonate you and give them a test drive. I mean,
Yep.
take action on them because as he describes it, if you could shrink down this big and get inside the head of the world's greatest performers, whether it's, founders of billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies like Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, or it's Kobe Bryant, or Tom Brady or Serena Williams, or a special forces soldier. If you could shrink down this big, I'm making it real small fingers here, those who are listening, and get inside the head of these world-class performers, this is what they're doing.
That's right.
Dillon's taking us on a tour inside the minds of the world's greatest performers. Well, how do I know that? How would I know that? Well, I've been fortunate to be around them for 20 years and also study them extensively. And really what I'm doing is listening to how they talk and how they explain. How are they articulating their thought process? That's how we know what they're thinking, because they're telling us how they're thinking through biographies and interviews and in all kinds of ways, documentaries. So, Dillon's making the complex simple for us, essentially. He's taken all this, you got to study this stuff for years and he's breaking it down to these key tools, these nuclear weapons of high performance,
Mm,
success, and I think happiness as well.
that's right.
Let's see. Okay. How to stay confident and positive all day long. And here's three great tips from Dylan. Check your body language, check your self talk, check your mental images. Can you describe your process and how you do this yourself?
Yeah. So I have, when I'm working with somebody, I'll have, we'll take out their phone and we'll set their alarm for every 15 or 30 minutes. Okay. And this will go from 9 to 5, or if they're really dedicated, from like 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. And every 30 minutes or so, we stop and we check our internal dialogue, we check our body language, we check our mental images. So, one of my favorite mantras for everybody, it's one I came up with when I first started Basketball Brain. It's, I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. I use this with golfers, CEOs. So when you check your inner dialogue, you kind of say to yourself 10 times with positive body language, I'm always in the zone. I'm always on fire. I'm always in the zone. I'm always on fire. You say this. If you don't feel like you're in the zone, you're not in the zone and you're not on fire. You keep saying it and you change your body language. And then maybe you want to flash a mental image in your mind too, because again, the brain consumes imagery. It really loves images. And again, I go back to, when you say these things, notice what we're actually doing here, what we're looking for. We're not looking for the thoughts. We're not looking for the body language. We're not looking for the mental image in and of themselves. We're using those to get into a feeling state, a feeling of power, a feeling of confidence, a feeling of capability, of motivation. We're trying to maintain a positive emotional state that works against that default mode network where we feel like nothing's going to work. We're always battling the underlying current of the nature of our physiology, our neuroanatomy, which is to worry, to be hyper vigilant, um, and to stress, quite frankly. So we do this, we check it every 30 minutes to start to feel more confident, start to feel like we're in the zone. And one of the things you learn very quickly is, even if in the morning from 6 a.m. to noon you don't feel good, if you keep checking your body language, you keep monitoring your inner dialogue, you keep watching these images, right? You keep saying, I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. You eventually get in the zone, you get on fire. When I work with athletes, I tell them, like, just have this mantra on your lips. I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire, as they're going through the layup line. This is like a mantra. It's like, it also helps with concentration. It gets the mind kind of in a rhythm, right? I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. And they'll start a game and maybe they're not playing well, but they keep saying, I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. And I cannot tell you how many athletes I've talked to over the years, as well as CEOs and business people. I'll tell you another story about a guy on a date who did this. But he said, I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. In a game, 3 quarters, a bunch of people told me this. They suck, they suck, they suck, but they kept believing, I'm always in the zone, I'm always on fire. In the fourth quarter, they get hot. They are in the zone, they're on fire in the fourth quarter. You've seen Kobe, you've seen Jordan, you see these great athletes play bad for 3 quarters, but even though they're not explicitly saying what I'm saying, they're feeling that. I'm always in the zone. I'm always, like, Kobe could miss 20 shots. His chin's still up. His shoulders still back. He's like, give me the ball. I'll shoot again. Jordan too. You never see their body language change. I had a guy who went on a date. He wasn't great on dates. And I said, dude, just be on the date. Say, I'm always in the zone. I'm always on fire. Just have that in the back of your mind. He's like, the date sucked. The date sucked. The date sucked. But I just kept telling myself, I'm always in the zone. I'm always on fire. Anyways, the date ended up going great. After that, he got in the zone. He got on fire with his dialogue. He was witty. And he ended up marrying this chick. And he thanks me to this day that that little mantra saved him, because she was ready to hit the road. So yeah, every 15, 30 minutes, maybe every hour, you want to check your body language, because again, that default mode is to go back to doubt. And I think over time, like, I don't do that anymore because I feel generally pretty good, right? But especially when you're first learning this stuff, you're retraining your nervous system, you're retraining the way you think. So you have to monitor your dialogue. You have to monitor what you're seeing in your mind, and it's going to go back to self-doubt and criticism very often.
Mhm. I've heard you talk about Indian monks using this, just saying a mantra over and over and over again. Another mentor of mine, Frank Zane, he was Mr. Olympia, I think two-time Mr. Olympia in
Mhm.
bodybuilding. He was one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's mentors. And Frank told me that he would say his mantra, he would try to say it a million times a year. A
Oh my
million
gosh.
times. How about it? That blew my mind.
Yeah,
So I
it's
had him
humble.
explain that to me. Yeah. He,
Yeah,
unbelievable mental. He's one of the strongest. He's in his 70s, might be 80 now. He's still one of the strongest minds I've ever encountered.
that's
His
crazy.
It is. He's practicing Buddhist. He also has a degree in psychology. Just a bulletproof mind, stronger than ever. And he counts his mantras with beads on his wrists, and also steps he takes during the day. And his mantra was when he was becoming Mr. Olympia was, "I've already won. I've
Mm,
already won." And to act, and then he would act like a winner
that's good.
now, which is a
Yeah,
lot of what Dylan's describing here. Just
for
act as
sure.
if,
Yep.
act like a winner before you're a winner. And you can do this. I mean, that's a great mantra Dylan's given us. I'm always in the zone. I'm always on fire. Uh, Over and over and over again. It's a great thought replacement because it crowds out any doubt and fear as
Yeah.
well. It's a
Yeah.
great thought replacement exercise. Again, nuclear weapon. In terms of body language, what are your tips on body language to fix our physiology?
I keep it very basic. I'll kind of just sometimes it's a superhero. I'll just like think of Superman, right? Superman in his suit. How he's standing with his and he's kind of like this. Like a statue. I do try to make sure. One of the sayings I use is "fire in the eyes and ice in the veins." That's what I like. If you look in my eyes, I want you to see passion, but I'm also cool, calm, and collected. Right. My breathing is. I try to make sure I'm breathing powerfully. It's like somebody going into a fight, and you're going to win. That's kind of like that body language. Like you almost feel like the world's a smaller person. Like if you had to be, if you had to beat up a little kid, you'd be completely confident, right? So that's kind of the mindset. You wouldn't walk in like, oh, I'm kind of nervous if I can handle this 50-pound 5-year old. You're just like, I got this. So yeah, I try to. That's my body language. Like if I had to beat up a 5-year old, I got this. Right? I'm 100% sure I can win this fight. Um, so your body language just kind of changes. I should also mention like every single rare species, best in class person I'm around, they always have a sense of humor. I think that's they can laugh at themselves. Not that they don't take things seriously, but they can always try. That's part of it too. I think that's part of being a highly successful person is to find humor and things too. But yeah, my friend and I were having a discussion like how many 5-year-olds could you beat up before they could take you over? uh, but yeah, it's like one of those things. Like if you knew you would win, what would your body language be? Like Superman's going to, he knows he's going to be able to save the day, right? So he's extremely confident.
Oh, excellent. More great visuals. More excellent visuals in terms of really, because all body language starts with our self talk and our mindset anyway. I mean,
Hmm.
we can fix it, right now for a few seconds, but then all these other thoughts are going to come in. We're not going to be able to hold it. So, Dylan's telling us, fix your mindset first. If you want to have better body language, it starts with our mind and have these simple visuals. Um, Simplicity is just so crucial to this. To keep it simple, masters make the complex simple for us to understand and do, and that's what Dylan's doing here. So don't overcomplicate success. Listen to what he's saying. Keep it simple, and again, take these things on a test drive. I mean, just try them out, and you'll see for yourself. Let's see. Why can't you think the same thoughts as Michael Jordan?
Mm. So there's this idea that people have. This relates to they're not, they're too good, or you think they're superior to you. Okay, now if you're an athlete and you're like 5'6", and you have a 24-inch vertical, are you going to be an NBA player on the caliber of Michael Jordan? Probably not, right? Okay, let's just be honest. But it doesn't mean mentally you can't be the same as Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Elon Musk or any great achiever. I always tell people like, okay, right now, everybody think of a unicorn with an alligator tail and pink polka dots all over it or something, right? Like you can visualize that, and it has wings or something. You can see that. Okay, so now you know you can think any thought. We can put any group of words together we want. Abba dabba dooba da. Anybody can say that, right? You literally can think anything in words and in image. If you can think anything, then think the thoughts that Michael Jordan thinks. And if you think the thoughts that Michael Jordan thinks, you're probably going to feel what he feels. You're going to have his beliefs, and you're going to take the action that he takes, or Kobe takes, or any great performer. So you can think anything in the world. So even if you can't achieve like the success of Michael Jordan on the basketball court because of you don't have the physical gifts, mentally there's no excuse. Mentally, you have no excuse not to be like the best in the world. You have no excuse not to have the killer instinct. You have no excuse not to embrace the moment, to embrace fear, because they're only doing that mentally. That has nothing to do with what they're doing with their body physically. This goes for any field. Any thought another person thinks, you can think the same thing. Any actions, by the way, that people do in their routine on their to-do list, you can take those same actions. There's no limit there. You can perfectly copy Kobe's routine if you find it, Kyrie Irving's routine, a great professor's routine, a great writer's routine. I used to collect. I love to write, and it's really one of my passions. And I would collect what great writers did, their daily routines, how they worked. There is nothing at all stopping me from doing exactly what they do and thinking exactly how they think. I will add to this. Some people worry, like, if I do that, I'll lose my originality. And quite frankly, that won't happen. Like, if you copy their thoughts and you copy their routine, just your inner essence is going to take that. You're doing the exact same thing, but it's going to have your twist on it. Your originality will come out. People worry about their originality too much. Your originality will arise. Kobe Bryant copied Michael Jordan almost verbatim. Everybody knows this. He copied his mannerisms, the way he walked, the way he chewed gum. But Kobe's style of play, Kobe's personality, while very similar to Jordan, I think no one who knows Kobe and Jordan, they know that Kobe has his own little flair, his own little originality, the way he moves a little different, and so on and so forth. So your own originality will come out even as you're copying or stealing, right? So you investigate genius, you investigate the genius. What did they think? What did they do? And then you steal from them. You essentially are ripping it. You're downloading it. It's like you're stealing it to a certain extent, downloading it into your system and running their software. There's no reason you can't run anybody's great person's software.
Investigate genius, then steal from it.
Yeah. Yep. That's what you do. And your own originality will come out. And what you're stealing is not their style so much. You're stealing their routine. You're essentially, what if you're in the field of success, there are people who just kind of come up with their own routine, but like, as Tony Robbins used to say, there's a shortcut to success because success leaves clues. And the clues, you're looking for mindset, but you're also looking, like, you're on the search for these great to-do lists, these great rituals that people have. And you tweak it for your own, but that's what you're doing. You're out in the world. You're like, okay, what exactly do these people do? What are their rituals, to-do lists, and beliefs? And I'm going to take those and use the to-do list, use their rituals, and think the way they think. This is the closest thing to a shortcut to success.
It is, isn't it? It is the closest thing to a shortcut to success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really think it is. Every single one of the greats has copied the greats before them. I've yet to find an exception in 20 years of study of a great who didn't study another great and copy, as Dillon says, their routine, their to-do list, their thoughts. I mean, that's what they're studying. I mean, you hear all the greats talk about it. I mean, Jeff Bezos modeled Sam Walton extensively, the founder of Walmart. Kobe modeled Michael Jordan. Oprah Winfrey modeled Maya Angelou. I mean, the list goes on. I call it modeling Mount Rushmore. You got to go to the Mount Rushmore of your field.
Great phrase. Yes.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's and it just works, as Dillon said, and anybody can do it. It's free for all of us. I mean, you can go to the library and get books on these greats. You can watch YouTube videos on these greats. It's just crucial. And I love that you talk about just copying their routines. I never really thought about this, but when I started writing books, the first thing I did was I looked up, okay, who are the most prolific writers? And I found Jerry Seinfeld in terms of jokes, so I copied his routine. Stephen King, prolific writer. Dr. Alan Weiss, who's written now, I think, 70 books on business and consulting. And then Robert Greene. So I just looked at their routines. I really just took half a day to just, okay, what are their routines? And then I just modeled them, and I wrote my first book in 30 days, full length book, and then 3 books in 90 days and 7 books in 18 months. And I never
Amazing.
really thought about it. Yeah, thank you, sir.
That's
It's hard
amazing.
for me to think about honestly how I did it, but I never really thought about it the way Dillon did. But that's what I did. I just,
Mhm.
as Dillon described to us, I just modeled their routine, and I just took maybe one thing from each one of them. I didn't need to take 30 things and overthink it. I just studied their routine and just broke it down. Um, yeah, it works. There's so much to unpack there. I'm going to rewind that one. I mean, I'm going to listen to this whole interview again for sure, because I need to, understand, better. I need to hear it again as Dylan described it in terms of the routines, um, and taking the routines and thinking the same thoughts as Michael Jordan. Again, it's available for all of us. Now, in terms of to-do lists and routines, I can tell you put a ton of thought into this. And Dylan's also prolific in his creation, the work that he puts out there. Again, successful entrepreneur and a master's in cognitive neuroscience, and one of the best basketball channels in the world on YouTube. I mean, he puts out a lot of great work and gets a lot done. You know, can you describe how you 80/20 your to-do list and your routine, that you've become so prolific in your career and your creation of great work and material? What's your framework or mental model you use?
So this is something I'm always thinking about. How can I maximize what I do? Right. So I've written a novel. Excuse me. I've written a novel, and I did exactly what you did. I found what great writers did and copied that. And I wanted to make this point very quickly. The A lot of people fall in love with finding the routines because it is fun. It's so interesting to see how these geniuses work. They fall in love with the routine, they see the routine, but they don't actually do the routine. They don't execute. I'm going to stress again, if you find these great routines, these great rituals, these great thought processes, but you don't actually do it, if you don't make your to-do list sacred, you're never going to achieve success. Every time I meet with somebody, I work with them, I say, let me see your to-do list. And most people have a to-do list. Show me your to-do list from yesterday. What did you get done? Elon Musk asked this when he went into, with these, when he went into Twitter, he said, they're all complaining. He said, what did you do last week? This is how, I mean, whatever you think about Elon, he's very competent and efficient in business. And all they care about is, are you getting done important things? Are things getting done that are vitally important? So,
Mm.
um, I call it critical point analysis, my 80/20. I'll tell you a very quick story. When I was playing football when I was younger, I was like 11, 12 years old. And one kid had just like hit his growth spurt early on the team. And without exaggeration, he was probably 210 pounds at like 13, 12, 13 years old, whatever age we were. He was big, right? Like 6 foot plus. I think he ended up playing in the NFL actually. But anyways, nobody wanted to tackle the kid because we're all like, 100 pounds or whatever. It's like one of those videos you see in Pee Wee sports where there's just this enormous kid all towering above everybody else. And anyways, my stepdad pulled me aside after a practice one day and he said, how much does that kid weigh? I said, I don't know, 200 pounds, He said, okay, you can't tackle his full body. He said, he drew a little picture on a piece of paper and he said, what's one of his legs weigh? I'm like, 40 pounds, something like that. And he's like, can you tackle that? I said, yeah. So we went in the yard and my stepdad was a huge guy. He was like in the Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were all like big guys. And he's like, tackle me. And he just ran basically full steam at me. And I got his leg and I took him down. Anyways, next day at practice, the big guy came and I just went for one leg. That was my mindset, one leg. And I took him down and everybody's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody get, how football players are. They get all amped up. But that's kind of how I look at my to-do list. If I have a challenge, if I have what's the critical point where I can tear down the challenge? Like if I could do one thing today in each area of life, one or two things maybe. What are those one or two things? And everything else gets pushed to the back, right? Everything else gets pushed to the back. And I have to, for me, this is one of the hardest. I kind of have ADHD. I'm scatterbrained. I almost called my company Scatterbrained Inc. Okay, because I'm all over the place, and it takes a lot for me to hone in and not get distracted by the new shiny thing. So this is like one of these things I'm constantly working on. I'm coming out with I made a program on it, but I'm coming out with a book probably next year. I did this deep dive into the unconscious, right? Kind of like a Jungian deep dive. deep into the shadow. I call it the dark side. And anyways, I used automatic writing and dream analysis, and I have all of these entries and these images and visuals that came, and I made artwork with it. So I'm putting all of this together. Anyways, sometimes when I was in this unconscious, I was asking, like, give me a visual for what I need to do to achieve success, asking the unconscious. And essentially it gave me this visual of this. It was like an image came straight to my mind. It was this owl in a blizzard, and the owl's flying, and its eyes are big, and there's snow everywhere, but the owl's focused on something. It's kind of similar to what the lion on the hunt with the bugs in the face.
Mhm.
And essentially it told me that if you want to achieve 1,000 things, do one thing at a time. If you want to achieve nothing, do 1,000 things at a time.
Mhm.
And so in each area, I'm looking for that one thing to focus on. Like if I'm writing today, I'm working on a novel that's based kind of on Dante's Inferno. And like I know exactly the one thing I need to do to work on today. Like I cut all the other crap out I could do for that. For my research, there's one particular thing I need to focus on today, which will advance me more than all the. And every day I'm looking for that one particular thing. One, maybe two. Maybe two. In my body, what is it? It's two things. It's like lift heavy and stretch. And then you put the other thing you need to do to be successful is some things have to be on cruise control. They have to are automated. Like my diet is the carnivore diet. I eat mostly meat, like
Wow.
99.9% meat. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
have to think about my diet anymore. Mark Zuckerberg famously, if you're not a highly successful person who's getting a lot done, you won't understand why Mark Zuckerberg has only black shirts and jeans that he wears, right? Like he has the same outfit. You look at that and you think, why would anybody do that? If your day is so packed with achievement of doing things to achieve, you instantly know, like, that sounds crazy to people who aren't producing at the highest levels. You just want there's so little time. Life is so short. You have to make every as much as you can automate. You have to automate. So that's the two things I'm doing. I'm looking for the critical point analysis. There's always in anything you do, there's a point you hit. It's like in Star Wars, they hit the ship, right? The center, and everything explodes. You're doing that. Sometimes you're tearing down problems, but sometimes you hit a point and everything builds. You hit one point and the out of the desert, the jungle, the garden appears, right? You're looking for that point that gives you tons of leverage. And then at the end of the year, you'll look back and you'll just be amazed if you can stick to this critical point analysis, and you'll be amazed how much you achieve. It's the hardest thing for me to do in everything I do. The thing that gets me, like, I'll go really well for 2 weeks, and then suddenly my to-do list is 150 items long, no exaggeration, right? I'm like, no, don't, back to like 10, 20 items a day max, right? I have to constantly, because I get interested in a lot of different things, and I notice, I'm like, okay, I can put 5 minutes here on this, and I'm like, nope, cut it, right? So that's one of my challenges.
Okay. Well, I suspect I have ADHD too, undiagnosed. And I've never, in conversation or this conversation, your work, I've never found you to be scatterbrained, Inc. As you're thinking about naming your company, I've never found you to be that way. And I'm not judging people who have ADHD and are scatterbrained. That's not a judgment statement. Um, I think it's really useful to have a tool like Dylan described in terms of what's the one thing. Have that critical that aiming point. Um, to stay laser focused on. And I think it anchors us as well. And I use the same thing. And I think that helps me to not be scatterbrained, I guess, to have that one thing in each category of my life, in my work, in my health, and then my relationships. And that one thing I have to get done each day. It's a very anchoring thought for me. And I attach my life to those things. And then if I get that done, I have a 2 and a 3 in each category. So it's like a tic-tac-toe
Same.
board.
Yeah, same,
Okay.
same. Mhm.
Yeah, okay. It helps a lot, doesn't it, to really anchor
It-
our thoughts and our days to those things.
And when my to-do list, like I might have 30 items on my to-do list. Okay. But 15 of those are the critical points. And when I say my to-do list 100% will get done, I mean 100% of my critical points will get done.
Mm.
The stuff that's a little lower down the list may or may not get done. I'll do my best to get to those. But those critical points, when I say I sign a contract, I'm saying those most important things, hell or high water, will be completed.
Mm.
It's hard for me though because I do get distracted. Not with that, not with like wasting time. I think one of the things, like as you study great people, or if you're interested, like in neuroscience, I also study artificial intelligence. Part of my research, I study the self and consciousness and emotion, and there is so much to read. And every day I go on YouTube, and there's a new lecture I want to watch that's like an hour and a half long. And I have to constantly pull back and say, no, stay focused on this paper, and not, keep, watching new lectures and new lectures, because it's endless, right? So it's that sort of stuff where I'm always like, this is great, be disciplined, come back to it later. That's kind of where I get distracted. It's usually learning. Learning is a big distraction for me because there's so much to learn. That's what I'm constantly pushing back, because I'll go on YouTube and open 50 tabs because it keeps recommending lectures I want to watch, or something on neuroscience or history or something, right? So that's my distraction is trying to learn too much. It's like you get voracious. I'm kind of a glutton when it comes to information. I have to watch that.
Oh, I see. I know the feeling, over the years that, when you love to learn so much, and you and I get paid to learn essentially, because
Right.
we need to learn as much as we can so we can teach and help people improve. Um, so we have to have a discipline and a diet of information that we take in. It's helped me to go back to that Mount Rushmore. Is this person on the Mount Rushmore of their field? And if they are, is this their, most important work? And then that's a mental model that's helped me stay disciplined over maybe the last 5, 10 years to really just identify what's the best and maybe spend 80 or 90% of my time there. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe 10% if they're not on the Mount Rushmore to try to take in new information. Um, there was something else. There's so many important things you said there that I don't want to miss. I'll probably come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, staying laser focused on the big things as well. So Dylan and I have our daily um, critical points that we've got to hit. And something that's helped me over the years, I learned this from Dr. Jason Selk, a great mentor of mine, one of the world's greatest sports psychologists, and then also Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, who's been probably the world's greatest executive coach. Marshall said to me, try to be the best in the, I'm sorry, be an expert at one thing. I mean, really
Yeah.
just be an expert at one thing. What do
Yeah.
that you need to be known for one thing. Okay. And then Jason Selk has taught me and hammered this into me. Always try to be the best in the world at one thing.
Yeah.
Right. And just have that clear aiming point. He's not saying you need to be the best, but as Dylan said, if you don't set a limit on yourself, that they're not as good, you're just as good. If you put the work in on a daily basis, have that one thing you're trying to be the best in the world at. And it could be to be the best dad or son,
Mm-hmm.
or to be the best in your field, but to have that simple aiming point where okay, I'm trying to be the best at this, be an expert at one thing. That helps me at a macro level. And then as Dylan described on a daily level, that having that aiming point, I'm sorry, the critical points each day. Let's see. Pick the opposite of what the average human being is doing. It's that simple to make yourself rare and stand out from a crowd.
There you go. I always wanted to go into Barnes and Noble or like a bookstore, and they had the self destruction section, right? They always had the self help section. And I'm like, you'd probably learn more if people wrote books about how they failed and what they didn't do. You get some guy who just like, I hit the snooze 17 times, and then I watched Netflix, and then I ate Cheerio. And if you would just take, what an average person or a failing person does, and going back to like picking the opposite, if you pick the opposite of what a failure does, or when you've been a failure, that's typically what I do when I think of when I haven't been succeeding. If I pick the opposite of everything I'm doing, there's a Seinfeld episode where George turns his life around just by doing the opposite of what normal George would do. There's a beautiful woman, and he's like, normal George would sit here, not talk to her, and the rest of the day kick myself for not talking to her. But opposite George would go up to her and talk to her. And he goes up to her and talks to her, and she says, "So what do you do?" He's like, "I'm unemployed. I live with my parents." He says the exact opposite of what he normally says. So he becomes like radically honest, because he lies all the time. So I think success, we copy. You want two forces pulling on you. You want to. I have this goal setting workshop, and I think the etymology of the word goal is very interesting. It means boundary or a limit. And when we set a goal, what we're essentially doing is there's like a border to a new world. right? We're trying to actually enter a new world, a world in which if we want to get strong, right, we set a goal, and it's a boundary to into this new world, and then we make a map to that goal, to that limit. We cross into that limit, and then we're in a new world. And essentially, what I have people do is you want to then set an anti goal. So, like, what would imagine the goal where you're, super ripped and in great shape, right? And then the anti goal is you're overweight with cancer, diabetes, dying, right? It's kind of like one world's dark, another world's light. There's a meme where it's like, I don't know if you've seen it. It's like there's this glorious castle on the right, and then there's like this haunted castle on the left. So you want to set your dreams and set your nightmares. Okay. You want to set your nightmares. You can find nightmares by studying people who have failed. That includes yourself. And then when you start to pick the opposite of what failures do, you don't guarantee success. Okay. You increase the probability, the likelihood that success you will achieve your goal. You just increase the probability. Nothing's guaranteed. Life is tough. Life can be very hard, but all you're trying to do with all of this is increase the likelihood that you have real power. Power is simply taking what's in here and making it show up in the world. Somebody who has power can take their ideas and they show up in the world. So you do that. You need to find out what failures do that don't have power, who can't take what's inside and externalize it. You need to go away from them, and then you want to start embodying these geniuses that we talk about. You want to investigate the genius, but you also want to investigate the failure. You want to do the opposite of the failure, and you want to do what the genius does. You want to steal from them. So it's really not that complicated, but then it all goes on your to-do list. And then when you're setting those alarms, you're also monitoring your beliefs, your internal dialogue, all of that. So then you combine your action with your mental state, and you're moving towards you're increasing the likelihood that you will move towards your ultimate goal. And that goal is a borderline into a new world. So you're always trying to enter these new worlds. When I set my goals, I always put setting worlds, creating worlds is what I call it. The world I want to live in, the world where my novel's finished. I have a novel right now. I'm meeting with someone who's potentially, it's a low probability, but potentially turning it into a movie. The novel I wrote, it's kind of a dystopian, maybe turning it into a movie. So it's a world I want to enter into, and I'm doing everything I can to cross that goal, that borderline, into the world where this novel I wrote becomes something you can watch on Netflix, right? Don't know if I'll get there. Like if you start Everest, you don't know if you'll reach the top, but you're doing everything you can to get to the top.
I love that you brought it back to to-do list as well, that sacred to-do list to
Yeah.
create that world.
Important for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I also love that you brought up the Seinfeld George do the opposite episode, which is one of my favorites as well. I actually
It's
wrote about it in
hilarious.
my first book.
Oh, did
Uh,
you?
I did. And I'm pretty sure I quoted you as well in your
Oh,
philosophy
that's
of doing
awesome.
the opposite. So I think it's that important. I mean, watch that episode. If you're listening, watch that episode of doing the opposite. I mean, you're really going to see it in action, what it can do,
Mhm.
right? And how it can change you. And again, pair that with the mindset of think the opposite thought and expand on it. I mean, you've got some really great tools in the toolbox, a really great roadmap, to a better life, a more successful life, and in creating a new world for yourself. Let's see. Avoid now. This was really powerful for me when I learned this from Dylan years ago. Avoid negative, violent, or vulgar music and images. Treat your mind like you would a young child.
Mm. Yeah. So I've noticed. I love rap music. So this isn't like bashing uh, the the skill of the artist or I still appreciate rap. I grew up on Mob Deep. If anybody listened to Mob Deep in the '90s, that's all I listened to. But it's very dark music in a lot of ways, right? I really liked like '90s gangster rap, and I noticed as I listened to this, my mood was not consistent. That my pride was always activated, and it seems to, I don't want to use the word attract, but we'll just use the word attract for now, bring things into my life I didn't like: people, certain attitudes, more conflict. That inner idiot is filled with pride and anger and depression and anxiety, and anything that it can latch onto in regards to those negative emotions, it will. So we really want to treat our minds like, would you let your 5-year-old nephew or son or daughter or niece watch a violent rated R movie? No. um, So with your own mind, you kind of want to treat yourself that way. I talk about the three E's that I'm always monitoring. The first E is entertainment, the movies we watch, the music we listen to. I'm trying to make anything I watch humorous, uplifting, inspirational, courageous. It doesn't mean I don't see some of those things can't be violent. Maybe I'll watch a World War II movie that's very violent, but the theme is courage or something, right? Doesn't mean I don't, like the Matrix or something. I like to watch because it's it's intellectually stimulating, but it's positive overall in my life in some way. The music I listen to, classical, jazz, positive hip hop with positive lyrics, right? Things like that. So that's entertainment. The next E is your environment, your actual physical surroundings. You try to make beautiful. You try to make it inspirational. My old office had a wall of heroes, and anytime I would read about somebody who did something really heroic, like the Little Rock Nine or something, right? Or some war hero, I would draw a picture of their face and then like print it out and put it on the wall. And I had this wall of anytime I do it, I put a little something about what they did, so I could always sit back and look at these wall of heroes. And it was like saints and people who did great inventors and innovators. But I always like to draw their face for some reason. It made me feel a little more connected to them. But it was part of making my environment beautiful. I've lived in really bad areas before, right? For years, I lived in the inner city, and my room in the inner city was beautiful, even though like the surrounding environment. So you do what you can in your environment. If you can't, if you're in prison, you do your little bed area as beautiful as you can. And if you have the ability to move to more beautiful surroundings, you do that. So you're looking at your personal world, your neighborhood, your city, your country, and you try to keep things beautiful. You try to pick up trash if you see it on the ground. I'm on the golf course and I see a piece of paper going across the fairway. I'll go pick it up and put it in my cart and throw it away. This mindset to keep the world as beautiful as possible. Then the third E is your entourage. I use just because it's the only E that has involves people. But your entourage, they're the people you're around. You want them to be uplifting, beautiful. Everybody's heard the quote: "You're the average of the five people you spend the most time with." I think that also includes the digital people you spend time with. So I'm curating the people I don't actually know. Like a lot of authors are my friends. A lot of podcasters are my friends, right? And I'm curating that. I want sober, uplifting, judicious, smart people in my digital sphere. Well, so you're always looking at that entourage. So essentially, in my estimation, there are four things you need to do to have a very robust spiritual and psychologically healthy life. One is you need to work on your unconscious. You need to work on the emotions that are in your unconscious. That's my primary focus, actually, for the last maybe 15 years. And I teach that. I run a lot of seminars on that. Second thing you need to do is work on your conscious thoughts. And that's a lot of what we're talking about today. Very important as well. Changing your thoughts, picking the opposite. The third thing you need to do is what we're talking about now, which is the world around you. You need to make sure all the inputs coming in from the external environment, as much as is humanly possible, is positive and uplifting and inspirational. And then the fourth thing you need to do, which I actually just gave a seminar yesterday on this, is start to develop a metaphysical worldview. How do you deal with the problem of evil and what is the meaning of life? So you need a like philosophy. So when you start to do those four things, I think your life starts to really come together and you start running on all cylinders. So what we're talking about here, these conscious thoughts that you have to deal with, change, alter, shift the body language, right? And then also making sure your external environment is helping you and not hindering you.
Mm. I love your big four there that you described. I never heard you describe that framework.
It's
And all
new,
four of
actually.
them are important. Oh, it's there you go.
Yeah, it just
Uh,
kind of all came together this year. Like I was thinking of like organizing everything. Like what are the four? And if I had to add a fifth, you could add like take care of your body or something, right? But I was thinking more about like a psychological and spiritual state.
okay, it's a really complete system as you describe it. I mean, you're hitting things from different angles. I can just easily see it contributing to a much mentally healthier and more successful existence. Um, more peace, more peace of mind, more success, more joy. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about this one down the road, that framework. And you've
Mhm.
given us good pieces of it today. Let's see. And I also love your framework of entertainment, environment, and entourage. And how would you put that in a bumper sticker? Entertainment, environment, entourage. What's an action step we could take in those? How do you describe that? What's that? I guess how do you coin that so we can remember it?
Well, I think for me, the thing I think about is it's one of these things I want to put on autopilot and make it automatic as much as possible, right?
Oh,
So curate your friends, curate your environment, and curate your input. It's all about curation. If you are a machine trying to achieve a goal, everything else, anything that doesn't help you, is something you must jettison. You must get rid of. You have to. It's hyper competitive. If you're in America, especially, America is the land of opportunity. But because of that, there's a lot of people here who are trying to take advantage of that opportunity. It's highly competitive. Anything that's a drag on you, you have to get rid of. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have downtime. This doesn't mean you don't have rest days. One of the things that I had to teach myself when I was playing basketball and working really hard was every Saturday, rest your body, rest your mind. And I realized that rest was the critical point analysis. It was the hardest thing I could possibly do. That was the hardest work for me. Obviously not physically, but it was very hard to respect my body and give it 1 day a week to recuperate and recover. So I started moving to 6 days a week instead of 7 days a week, and I improved. Right. So when I say curate your environment, it doesn't mean you don't have an hour a day where you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm or something, right? Like you or you still don't want to be around like nasty people or anything, but you really start to if you're super serious about life. I remember Jim Rohn saying like he would ask people, "Let me see your goals," and most people didn't have a goal list. Right? Like they didn't have that these worlds they wanted to live in. Um, if you have a goal list and you're one of those people and you have your to-do list, you cut as much. So I would say to give it a bumper sticker is curate your life, curate your life, curate your friends. And everything's honed towards your greatness. And greatness, we should define, in my opinion, as reaching your potential or at least attempting to reach your potential in every area of life. It's actually not about achievement. It's about the effort. Once you're on the path, in my mind, today, if you want to be a rare species, getting on the path, you're a rare species because so many people get on the path to greatness. They're not concerned about their diet. They're, working out. They're not working out. They're not trying to achieve in their career and their relationships. It doesn't mean you'll succeed, right? But if you're putting forth the effort, in my book, you're like a snow leopard. You're like these rare predators out there that you don't see too often in the wild, but you're out there, And that I think that's why you and I and everybody who's like a diehard basketball, like we're all kind of the same people, right? We have different interests. We're doing it in different fields, but we're all hyper focused on what Maslow called self-actualization, right? Like peaking out in every area of life maxed out. That's what we're aimed for.
mm. Oh, beautiful. Honored to be on that list,
Absolutely, you are.
with yourself. Honored to be on that path as well. And I feel, as long as we're practicing these things every day, again, we may not achieve the goal, but it's about actualization and it's about, doing hard things and going after these goals. Okay. You've talked about, I know we only have a few more minutes here. This is something that I've only heard you ever talk about. And there's been so much study of Michael Jordan over the
Mm-hmm.
years. And you're the first person who described it this way. And you said when Michael Jordan started lifting weights, learned to get into a Zen state and learned to visualize, he became a master of the game of basketball and never lost a championship again. And these are three critical points as you described them for him. These are critical points. Can
Yeah,
you talk
for
about
sure.
this a little bit? I mean, you pretty much explained it all in that statement, but most people have never heard this before.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at Jordan's career, as soon as he picked up weights, he got physically stronger, right? When he learned to visualize, he became mentally stronger. And when he kind of learned a sort of Zen state from Phil Jackson to let the moment go, he became spiritually strong. So you see a freak athlete with a killer instinct early in his career. Obviously, his body's naturally gifted. But when you have natural gifts, what you're looking to do is just kind of tweak that to sort of amp that up. So he's already mentally strong, but how do you hone that, right? It's kind of like his early career is kind of chaotic energy, but he learns to hone that into controlled energy. So he starts to get his teammates involved. And then he starts to hone his already freakish body to get stronger, especially his upper body. He never did leg workouts. He never touched his leg. It was all upper body. But just to
Oh,
take that beating from the Detroit Pistons, right? Um, so he's physically strong. And then he learns to visualize. One of my favorite quotes from Michael Jordan. And I talk so much about visualization because visualization is just innate in us. We see things. We have dreams, right? Um, you even watch a dog sleeping. If you watch a dog sleeping, you can see the dog will be sleeping and start chasing something in the dream, right? It's visualizing. A dog has no language. It's seeing the chase. I just read a study of a mouse brain that a mouse was sleeping and they hooked up all of these electrodes to the brain and you could see the brain activating while the mouse is asleep. The mouse is having little mouse dreams, which are visual in nature and feeling in nature, right? So Jordan started to visualize and he kind of did this naturally. He would always drive around and visualize himself hitting game winners, but it was like realistic. He would feel the ball, he would hear the crowd, and he would just replay. And he'd live in this world of visualization. And he said everybody else was scared at the end of games. He said I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared because I had been there thousands of times, just visualizing it.
mm,
So I always tell athletes, for instance, like if you're Kobe Bryant, right? Or let's just say you're a great athlete yourself. And 10 times a day you visualize yourself hitting game winners. You just do it 10 times a day. You see yourself hit different game winners 10 times a day. At the end of the year, you've seen yourself hit 3,650 game winners. It doesn't guarantee you're going to make a game winner, but it increases the likelihood that you'll make a game winner because you're starting to program the subconscious mind about what you want to have done. So people ask me, what's the difference between Jordan and LeBron? And to me, it's the end of games, right? More than that. But like if for me, if you're going to be the GOAT at the end of games on the highest stage, you have to perform. If you
mm.
can't do that, in my opinion, you cannot be the GOAT. The GOAT is someone who performs on the highest stage in those closing moments. And nobody was better than Jordan. Not Kobe, not LeBron, not even Bird. Okay.
Mm.
And Jordan was so good because one, you put in all the physical practice, which he did, but then he had the mental game and he was good mentally because he visualized doing it so much. He lived in his visualizations. Okay. So when he did that, he was the master of the game of basketball. And he might have been the only master ever of the game of basketball because he has all of the skills, all of the footwork. Um, he has the mental toughness, the competitiveness, and then you add to that the clutch, right? The ability to stay calm under pressure, the zen he learned from Phil Jackson, right? Like so, put all of that together with the triangle offense, which really helped him, developed by Tex Winter. People give Phil Jackson a lot of credit. I mean, if you want to give Jordan, if you want to say somebody deserves credit, doesn't get enough, it's Tex Winter, in my opinion, the developer of the
Amen.
triangle offense, right? So in my mind, I've never seen anybody. LeBron's a physical freak. He's a high basketball IQ. In certain parts of the playoffs, at the end of the playoffs, he's been pretty good in crunch time. But in the finals, his crunch time stats aren't very good. They're mediocre among superstars near the lower end. Right?
Mm.
Still respect him. Still a great player, but it doesn't have. You can't combine all of that the way you can in MJ. Right? And this isn't. I'm not trying to like make the GOAT case here. I'm just trying to say when you talk about these rare species, especially as they start to are the best in class, they execute on every level at the crucible. At when there's the most pressure, that's when they become their best. And we won't get political here. And I'm an independent, but I think a lot of people, for instance, under the pressure of the attempted assassination, one of the reasons people liked maybe change their view of Trump. You saw Mark Zuckerberg even say like these liberals go, when Trump under that pressure stood up and said fight, fight, fight. Human beings, the reason I bring this up is not to be political, but human beings are drawn towards that sort of thing. When there's pressure and people perform. That's why we watched the Masters yesterday. And Rory, like you want to see people perform under pressure, and the people who perform the best at those peak moments, that's what we're attracted to. And Jordan was the master of that. And it's because he got physically strong, mentally strong, and spiritually strong.
Oh, incredible, incredible, incredible description. Shrinking down inside Jordan's brain.
That's right. That's right.
and also describing the levels of mastery, the levels of rare species, because even at the top, there's a tier, potentially above. And I never thought about that, that Jordan may be the only person who actually mastered the game. And now you've given me so much food for thought. I'm going to think about other domains and who
Right.
has truly mastered it. Oh, incredible. Okay, thank you for that. Now, lastly, here, Dylan, Kobe Bryant and Conor McGregor make their life epic. They make their life seem like an adventure. They fully embrace the fact that they are living the hero's journey. And I think you do a great job of this yourself as well. So I'll put you on that list.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you want to have an epic life without coming across as a sorry douchebag, right?
Mm,
So like Connor kind of has crossed into the line. But if you listen to young Connor speak, the way
right.
he talked about his fights, I'm fighting the Russian. The guy has the Mexican style. The Mexican style of boxing, very aggressive, always forward, right? Um, Kobe, he tears his Achilles and he tweets, "If you see me in a fight with a bear, pray for the bear." Right? Like it's that sort of language. It's archetypal. It's archetypal. It's mythic. It's activating that collective unconscious. It's like we talked about earlier. The reason we go from want to excited to exhilarated is words have meaning. They activate. You can see it in neuroscience. Different words activate different pathways. Some words activate more emotion than others, and we're looking to activate that positive emotion that works against that inner idiot, that part of us that says we can't do something or we can't achieve something, right? So we make our lives mythic because we're on a hero's journey. And sometimes people confuse this with like fame or notoriety. It's none of that. There's so many unrecognized geniuses in the world, right? I'm sure you know some of them, right? Like some of my college professors, not well known, absolutely geniuses, but they're just not doing podcasts and making YouTube videos. They're just in their domain and among their peers. They're known. They're known very well for being like the best. They just don't, So you're always looking for these geniuses to emulate. You're always looking for the people who achieve at the highest levels, and when you do that, you're necessarily bumping into archetypes. You're bumping into the mythic world. And Jordan Peterson is pretty good about this. You can watch some Jordan Peterson stuff, his early stuff. Jordan Peterson, the past few years, I'm not a big fan of, but if you go watch his old lecture, he talks a lot about the mythic life and how important the unconscious is, right? And using language to reflect that. It's very fighting dragons, right? To go battle monsters. That's what some of your monsters are, you know, internal. Some of them are external, but you're always battling monsters. Before Jordan Peterson, every generation has someone who reminds us of the archetypes. Sometimes they're writers. It's Jung, it's Joseph Campbell, it's Jordan Peterson. In 20 years, there'll be somebody else who remind us of an archetypal life. You have to respect the unconscious and the archetypes. And you start to say that. Like the reason, good example is when we're talking about goal setting. I call it world creation. That makes this a mythic life. I'm not just setting a goal. I have a world I'm trying to get to, a different planet, maybe, right? Uh, Elon Musk is going to Mars. It motivates you, right? You have your own Mars. Maybe it's whatever that one thing you want to be great at. That's your Mars. That's what you're trying to get to. So it's that mythic sort of thinking. If you were to look at my to-do list, it sounds ridiculous, right? Like because the language on my to-do list is also mythic. Like what I'm trying to do. There are beasts I'm trying to slay. There are castles I'm trying to take, right? So yeah, living a mythic life. It's not when you speak it out loud to people, it sounds kind of corny. It's kind of a personal thing, right? You tell somebody you're slaying a dragon, they're just going to, oh my god. But internally, that's what it feels like to you. You are slaying a dragon. I have a friend who's going to defend his PhD, right? And he has to go in front of this board and orally defend his PhD or whatever. This is a dragon he has to slay. Right? It's a monsters because these guys are out to get him or whatever. So I think the mythic, making your life mythic, and maybe keeping it to yourself. But this is how you think. This is what if we have a family member who is going through cancer right now, and her husband is he's doing the damsel in distress thing, like in a noble way. Like he stopped everything, and his focus is on helping his wife to get through this. Right, so he's embodying the archetype of the knight right now. I don't know if he puts it that way, but that's what I see. I see a knight. If people see a devoted husband, I see a knight who's doing everything to save his damsel. And so, you see, if you look in the world, you start to see archetypes everywhere. And you want to start to feel those archetypes because the unconscious, loves it operates on visuals, and it understands archetypes, right? It understands the archetypes. So when you structure your life in terms of the archetypes, it gives you more energy. It's just, again, trying to get more energy, more focus, more motivation, more drive, and make it consistent.
Mhm. Dylan, thank you for this interview today. And this is one, definitely one of my favorites I've done on the show, and one I will go back to and listen to more than once. Um, I learned this from Dr. Jason Selk. He was mentored by John Wooden, and he went to John Wooden's house and asked if he could see his bookshelf, and John said sure, and Jason started going through the books, and they had notes all over them, and they were ragged, and what John said to Jason was, when you find a great book, run laps on it.
Mm.
You got to run laps on great books. And this is an episode that I will definitely run laps on myself. And I challenge anyone listening, if you find something, and I think will be one of them for you, listen to it more than once, because, and listen to it back to back, and listen to it a year from now. And you may, get something new out of it you didn't need a year ago. Um, Dylan, where can people find your work?
DillonFreed.com, DILLONFREED. I highly recommend everyone do it's 100% free. There's no upsells or anything. It's the How to Let Go program. And I do most of my damage on TikTok now. So I'm at Dillon.Freed on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram at Dillon Freed. But I essentially post on TikTok, and I have this service that sends it everywhere else. So if you have TikTok, I like TikTok.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yeah, your work is well made for TikTok. It's well designed because it's punchy. It's very unique. So I could see why TikTok would be useful to your work. And Dylan also does one-on-one work, which I did a session, well worth the money. I learned so much in just one session. So that's another way to work with Dylan. Uh, yeah, you jump into the Dylan Freed universe however you need to. There's so much good stuff, and also Basketball Brain, the YouTube channel. It's a basketball channel, but it's so much more. It's really about just high performance in life and success and happiness. So that's another great place where I got to know Dylan. Thank you again, sir. Really an honor. Learned so much. I appreciate. I'm proud to know you, and I appreciate everything that I've learned from you today and previously.
So nice of you. Thank you so much, AJ. And I would love to do this again sometime.
Oh, excellent. I will take you up on that, sir. Thanks for over delivering today.
No problem. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, definitely. Maybe you can come on Basketball Brain channel, and we can talk there too.
Oh, honored. I would love to. I'll take you up on that. Honored to be useful if I could. And talk to you soon, sir.
Talk to you soon.